You think you know the story of Cinderella, a poor girl in rags, a cruel stepmother, a fairy godmother with a wand, a glittering ball, a glass slipper, a charming prince who finds her, and a perfect ending. But what if I told you that the Cinderella you know is only a thin layer over something ancient and darker? What if the famous glass slipper was never meant to sparkle, but instead was once carved from bone, a sacred object in an ancient rite? Beneath the fairy tale lies a spiritual death, a ritual of rebirth, and echoes of a forgotten goddess rising from the ashes. Because Cinderella didn't just lose a shoe, she crossed a threshold between worlds, between lives, and between who she was and who she would become. Once upon a time, there was a young girl named Cinderella. She was beautiful, kind, and gentle, but her life was filled with pain. After her beloved mother died, her father remarried a woman who hid cruelty behind elegance. This new stepmother brought with her two daughters, and together, they stripped Cinderella of her place in the household. She became a servant in her own home, forced to sleep in the ashes by the fireplace, wearing torn rags, scrubbing floors, cooking meals, and enduring insults daily. Her real name was forgotten. They called her Cinderella, a girl of cinders. Then, an invitation arrived, the royal ball. The prince was to choose a bride. The stepsisters prepared for the event, leaving Cinderella behind in despair. But then came the miracle. A fairy godmother appeared, transforming her tattered dress into a gown of light, giving her glass slippers, and a carriage born from a pumpkin. She was warned, return by midnight, or the magic would vanish. At the ball, the prince was enchanted. They danced. And as the clock struck 12, Cinderella fled, leaving behind only one glass slipper. The prince searched the land, trying the slipper on every maiden. When it fit Cinderella, her true identity was revealed. They married, and lived happily ever after. That's the tale we've all heard, but that's not how it began. The earliest known version of Cinderella predates castles, fairy godmothers, and glass. In 9th century China, a tale called Yuxian told of a girl whose only friend was a magical fish. Her jealous stepmother kills the fish, but its bones retain power. With their help, Yuxian attends a festival, loses her golden slipper, and is found by a king. Here, the transformation is not by a fairy, but by ancestral magic, and fish bones instead of fairy wands. In ancient Egypt, the story of Rhodopis features a Greek slave girl whose sandal is carried off by a falcon and dropped at the feet of the pharaoh, who then seeks her out and makes her queen. In Italy, around 1634, John Battista Boswell wrote L'Ogata Cenerentola, a much darker version where the heroine kills her stepmother and is aided by a magical tree that grows from her mother's grave. The prince doesn't search gently, he becomes obsessed, and the ending is more disturbing than romantic. Then came Charles Perrault in 1697, the version most familiar today. He added the pumpkin carriage, the fairy godmother, and famously, the glass slipper. But there is something curious here. Many historians believe Perrault may have mistranslated Pantoufle de verre, a slipper made of fur, as Pantoufle de verre, a slipper made of glass. One letter changed the entire texture of the myth. Was this a simple mistake, or a deliberate concealment? Across cultures and mythologies, a recurring theme emerges: the descent into suffering, the stripping of identity, the divine transformation. Cinderella's story is not just about escaping servitude. It's a ritual of initiation. In Greek mythology, Persephone is taken to the underworld. Her mother's mourning causes the world to wither. But when she returns, she becomes queen, not just of spring, but of death. In Sumerian myth, the goddess Inanna descends into the netherworld. Each layer of descent requires her to remove a piece of clothing or power, until she is naked and dead. Only through divine intervention is she reborn, wiser, darker, transformed. In Norse traditions, Freya, goddess of fertility and battle, travels across realms, wearing a cloak of feathers. She is not passive, but a chooser of fate. Cinderella mirrors these goddesses. Her ashes are the mark of symbolic death. Her transformation is spiritual resurrection. The slipper is not just an object, it's a token of identity, like Persephone's pomegranate or Inanna's royal robes. This is not just a story of kindness rewarded. It tests the alchemical journey of the soul, from the base matter of suffering into the gold of self-realization. In 2010, archaeologists unearthed a funerary stele in Delphi, Greece. On it, a woman stands barefoot beside a single ornate sandal. The inscription reads, "She crossed the threshold with one foot in fate." In Slavic burial sites, young women were sometimes buried with only one shoe, suggesting a symbolic journey, not just a transition from life to death, but from one role to another, maiden to wife, mortal to divine. In Scythian culture, ceremonial shoes made of bone were worn only during rites of passage. In some tombs, bones of animals were carved into delicate foot coverings, not for fashion, but for ritual travel into the other world. And in medieval Europe, there are legends of soul shoes, worn by the dead to walk the path to the afterlife. Could the glass slipper be a memory of this, a lingering echo of an ancient soul ritual? And what of the fairy godmother? In older traditions, she resembles the crone figure, like Baba Yaga or the Celtic Morrigan wise, dangerous, transformative, the one who initiates you through death into rebirth. Let's unravel the icons. The hearth and ashes equals the realm of the dead, the space of mourning and dissolution. In many cultures, sitting in ashes was part of grief rituals or spiritual purification. The stepmother and stepsisters equals the forces of ego, envy, and resistance. They represent the world that suppresses the true self. The fairy godmother equals the guide or gatekeeper between worlds, the one who provides the means to ascend. The ball equals not a dance, but a trial, a test of soul worthiness, where only those transformed can be seen for who they truly are. The clock striking midnight equals the collapse of time, the return from the spiritual realm to the mortal one. The glass slipper equals a symbol of the soul's true shape, delicate, unique, unbreakable truth. No one else can wear it. Cinderella doesn't get lucky. She completes a mythic initiation, the descent, the transformation, the return, and the prince. Perhaps he is not a savior, but a symbol of union, the marriage of self, the integration of light and shadow. So what if the story of Cinderella isn't about escaping a bad family or marrying a prince? What if it's about burning down the false self? What if it's about rising, not as a bride, but as a reborn soul, forged in hardship, shaped by ash, and crowned by fate? The tale we call Cinderella may be thousands of years older than we ever imagined. It has traveled across continents, changed faces, worn different shoes. But the core remains, a girl of ashes, a slipper of truth, a dance with destiny. So the next time you hear "Once Upon a Time," remember, some stories are older than time. And some girls don't wait to be rescued. They rise from the ashes and claim the throne of their soul. And if that leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew, just wait until we uncover what Sleeping Beauty was really dreaming of.